About Judy Blume. About becoming an author, Judy says, "When I was growing up, I dreamed about being a cowgirl, a detective, a spy, a great actress, or a ballerina. Not a dentist like my father, or a homemaker like my mother. Certainly not a writer. Although I always loved to read. I didn't know anything about writers. It never occurred to me that they were regular people and that I could grow up to become one, even though I loved to make up stories in my head. I made up stories while I bounced a ball against the side of our house. I made up stories playing with paper dolls, and I made them up while I practiced the piano by pretending to give piano lessons. I even kept a notebook with the names of my pretend students and how they were doing. I always had an active imagination, but I never wrote down any of my stories, and I never told anyone about them. When I grew up, my need for storytelling didn't go away. So when my own 2 children started preschool, I began to write, and I've been writing ever since. My characters live inside my head for a long time before I actually start to write a book about them. Then they become so real to me, I talk about them at the dinner table as if they're real. Some people consider this weird, but my family understands. Where do you get your ideas? I used to be afraid to answer that question. I thought if I ever figured it out, I'd never have another one. But now I know that ideas come from everywhere. Memories of my own life, incidents in my children's lives, what I see and hear and read, and most of all, from my imagination. What's the hardest part of writing for you? I dread first drafts. I worry each day that it won't come, that nothing will happen. Is it fun to be a writer? Not always. It's a solitary life and it can get lonely. You spend most of the day in a little room by yourself. But since I love to create characters and get to know them, I'm usually content. About the Pain and the Great One, Judy says, "One rainy afternoon when my children were about 6 and 8 and the house was filled with their friends, I suddenly got an idea. I sat right down and wrote The Pain and the Great One. The brother and sister in this book are based on my daughter Randy and son Larry. The cat is our first family pet. Randy and Larry, who are all grown now, still sometimes refer to each other as the Pain and the Great One.